Hi, my name is Stephen Rafferty, and you're watching These Are Questions. This is the interview show where I ask people questions about things, life, and such not. Today's guest is a world-renowned photographer, and she is the owner and founder of her creative agency, the Creative Circus Agency. Please welcome Vivian Vo.
Vivian.
Hi guys.
Hey.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome. Thank you for being a part of These Are Questions. Welcome. Before we get into the show itself, I need to explain the rules of These Are Questions. Vivian, I'm going to ask you a series of questions that are going to be based around your career aspirations, along with a mixture of questions that are borderline idiotic and, well, randomly stupid. Do you accept those terms?
Oh, let me think about that. Yes.
All right, awesome. So, Vivian, are you ready?
As ready as I'll ever be. Sí. Estoy lista.
Yes. Sí, señorita. Internet, are you ready? I see a thumbs up over there. We're ready to go? We're ready to go? I'm going to take that as a yes. So yeah, we're ready. With that in mind, let's begin. So, Vivian, I would love to get to know more about yourself, your business, and your sister agency. Can you explain to me and the viewers your story and how you got into the creative arts and formulate with the creation of your various business ventures?
Well, it's funny you asked that, Stephen, because only recently that I actually discovered my parents' creative and entrepreneurial background. My mom actually grew up writing poems, and she did coffee things, and she sewed and loved to sing Vietnamese opera while she ran her family's businesses.
Oh, wow.
And my father was such a Renaissance man, and I never knew that growing up because, I was just a kid. But he actually was an apprentice to a painter. So, like, the paintings in our homes, he did them, and I didn't even realize them. He ran his own photography studio back home. And then he also worked in the fashion industry. So when he moved to the States, he actually started his own fashion label, and he offered videography on the side. So I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. But I started my creative journey at a very young age. As far as I can remember, I've always loved fashion, music, and the performing arts. So I started singing when I was 3, and I started writing my own music when I was 7. And I would run choreographed productions for my family with my brothers and siblings. And I started illustrating and sketching. I even made my own little magazines, like fashion magazines. I would bind them myself. I'll have my mom Xerox them. So I was always entrepreneurial, I guess, because even when I was 8, I came to my dad with this book, and my parents still tell me the story. They thought it was so funny. I came to them with this book of sketches, and it had the name of the designs, it had SKUs, it had the colors and the offering, and it even had the price points for them. So I guess you can say I took a very entrepreneurial approach to my craft. I was always the hustler. I was that kid that was always selling something on the playground. And then when I went to college, I pursued a BA in fine arts in fashion design and also a BA in fashion marketing. And I had modeled, styled wardrobe, and taught at a makeup school while I was there. And additionally, I had been voted into a presidency role at the Fashion Couture Society. And I think that was actually really a prelude to the business that I own now. Because during that time, I had the highest membership activities, like active members actually running through the organization. At that point, it was very low. So I kind of enticed people to join because I provided educational workshops. We did a lot of networking. I produced a lot of fashion shows and also photo shoots. So I think naturally I was always good at networking and connecting raw talent together. And then when I moved to corporate life, I actually worked as a designer, and I quickly advanced to a role where I ended up hiring, training, and managing the web department, the marketing team, the product development. And so a lot of people don't know that I actually have a tech background. So everything I know about web design, web development, SEO, graphic design, that was all self-taught. So I guess from working with the corporate side, I had the opportunity to work with budgets and cast talent and hire crew members, and I would be the one, in charge of the creative direction and also the post-production. So I was very hands-on with that.
Very cool and very interesting. I did not know a lot about you with that. So really eye-opening. And it's funny because now that you mentioned more of your story, we kind of have a similar pathway and background. Just to go a little bit about myself without going into a crazy tangent. Long story, super short, is that I didn't start as an entertainer. I didn't start as a stand-up comic in my original roots. I started as a programmer. I was a computer programmer. I was working for... Yeah, so I was working in, I guess, IT. I was working in web development, working with a company called Abysmal Essence, and they were the ones who did all the mobile games for Adult Swim productions for Cartoon Network and stuff. And I was doing interning there, realized I absolutely hated it because I didn't like the web design of it. I liked the design of it and the creative part of it. And then long story short, without getting too much into my life, I left out of there, started doing other endeavors, and then eventually led it to me doing entertainment, stand-up, and doing acting, and then doing behind-the-scenes work as a videographer, editor, photographer, graphic designer, and a jack of all trades. All self-taught, by the way. So I can absolutely relate to your story, how you were introduced to different forms of media and also into a little bit of entertainment, and then developing your craft and self-teaching your crafts and learning your skills. So definitely relatable in a lot of ways.
Well, I'm so glad you shared that with me because I'm actually really jealous because I've always, when I was younger, there was only two dreams that I had. I wanted to be a magician or a stand-up comic. Those were my two dreams. Ooh. And then here I am. I'm now a producer and running a marketing agency and a production business. So, it's just interesting where the world takes you.
Absolutely. And if you never know, you can always still become a stand-up comic and a magician. You could be both if you really wanted to.
I definitely have thought about the stand-up comedy. The few times I've been to New York, I was like, I thought about taking improv classes because a lot of people tell me like they think that I'm funny by nature. So I'm like, maybe I could take some of these because I'm pretty huge storyteller and I'm very sarcastic and I have 4 date stories and I don't really filter any of them. So
okay. Well, that's endless material right there. So I can just tell you right off the bat, if you ever decide to do it, just go on an open mic, get a little set for a few minutes, and just jump and see if you like it. If you don't like it, be like, hey, at least you tried. But if you do, man, the ball's just running. You just keep going.
I think I'll just stick to entertaining my crew and my clients on set.
Okay, fair enough. But you never know. You never know. And, speaking of your clients and your talent, I really wanted to ask, how would you define your photographic style to someone who's never done photography before?
So I will preface that this is coming from someone who was not formally trained in photography. This was all self-taught. I would say like my fashion and advertising photography is centered around color sensibility and storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Color theory is one of my strengths, I believe, especially even throughout school, that was one of my strengths. So all my concepts are pretty much based off a color story that I've developed along with wardrobe that represents like a time period or something that got inspired. I got inspired through my travels, movies, or music. Mm-hmm. And if you were to ask me about my stylistic approach as an artist, I would call myself a Euro minimalist trash, Harajuku eclectic, and color gasmic idealist.
Color gasmic.
I'm constantly I'm getting color orgasms. So I'm very easily visually stimulated by colors and also by music. Music kind of takes me up to this other high, and it's funny. I don't really, I did not partake in any recreational drugs, but music for some reason takes me to another realm, and then my imagination just opens up into another world.
I absolutely. I think there's an art with music, and there's a sensibility with it when you especially find songs that you really, really enjoy, that you really have a feel for. So it's funny. I want you to remember some music for later. I'm not going to spoil anything, but remember that for later. So
yes, I'm excited.
Mm-hmm. And, you've had the chance to do some incredible photo shoots and media projects across the globe. Is there any one of your previous shoots or locations that really stand out for you? Stand out for you. We're going to keep that in. We're keeping that in.
I like that too. Oh, wow. And let me think. You know what? I know this might sound boring to some people because it's not one of my most what you would identify as a glamorous client. Mm-hmm. But actually one of my clients is Critic in Wellness, and I held a very dear, I have a very, very intimate association with that company because when I produced for them, it's more of like a corporate company. My mom had 2 strokes, and so my life kind of completely changed. And actually, when the stroke happened is when I actually launched my business, because
Oh my goodness.
in order to care for my mom full time, especially since she was dealing with rehab and not being able to speak or walk, I had to work from home. And so this is what kind of uh, plummeted me into, I have to run a business. I need to take care of my family.
Of course.
And so when I went there, I saw the center that was offering services that kind of would have been a preventative program for someone like my mom, and even after the fact of her having a stroke. And so I was very moved by that, because it's so rare that you work for a client and you're like, wow, they're doing something really amazing that is changing people's life. So for me, that was always memorable, because they would, they knew the story of my mom, and they would give me like products and advice and things how we could help improve her health. And so that was something that always stood out to me, because I love working for clients where I truly believe in their products and services. I tend to turn away projects where I feel like I don't have the right amount of passion for it. I would be doing a disservice, because really at the end of the day, I know, speaking as an entrepreneur, it's all about ROIs, but speaking as a creative artist, I want to do projects where I believe that it is doing something good for the world and it's changing something. So.
Well, thank you for sharing me your more intimate side of how you think and how you form with some of your creative projects and where you want to see going moving forward. So thank you for that. I did not know, and that's pretty cool. And I'm glad that you were able to continue to form a successful business and doing, as in your words, creating great projects and doing good for yourself and for the world. So I applaud that. Give a little bit of applause.
Thank you. I mean, to be honest, that's the real reason why I went to photography, because, I was a creative director. I never had to shoot. I would just be the one directing the lighting, the type of shots, the styling. And then, of course, I got frustrated sometimes. I'm like, let me just do the shot. I can see it in my head. But truly, I started this business because I really wanted to bring light into underrepresented voices. So when I started, I wasn't shooting fashion. I was traveling. I took a hiatus. And after corporate life, because before my mom had a stroke, it's so ironic, I was disabled for 4 months. I couldn't walk.
Wow.
A drunk driver had hit me.
Oh my goodness.
It changed my whole life. I was like this woman who ran 120 miles per hour at corporate life, telling you all the things that I did, to now seeing that I was limited and life is not immortal. And so then I took a hiatus. I traveled throughout Europe for a year. And that's when I really honed on my photography. I just took pictures of stories of just people. What was happening? I try to capture images that sounded and smelled. I know it sounds weird, but actually smell and felt what I was seeing at the time. And so I think throughout that process, it brought me to really want to tell stories, because I saw so much economic suppression, religious oppression. I saw so many things that really disturbed me. So sometimes what you'll notice in my fashion editorials, there is an underlying social issue that I'm trying to highlight without being so literal.
Okay.
So a lot of my stuff is also influenced by just trying to bring light to certain topics that maybe we're not aware about or we don't talk about enough.
Okay. Very interesting. I'm just thinking about it. Now I'm looking back at some of your photo shoots and some of your early stuff, and now I'm gonna be like, okay, what's the underlying theme? What's the intention? What's the hidden meaning?
Yeah, I know. I think most people don't think about that, but I truly operate from that place when I'm building these stories.
Very cool. Very, very cool. So, Vivian, my next question is not so much a question per se, but it's actually a challenge.
Ooh.
Vivian, I am challenging you to a game. This is a very important game, by the way. To a game of tic-tac-toe.
Ooh, I haven't played that in so long.
Okay, I have 2 colors. Do you want red or blue?
Blue. What's my favorite color?
It's mine too. Ooh.
What?
Crazy. Ladies first. Do you want X or O?
Let's go with O.
Oh, okay. And where would you want this O to be here?
I would like the O to be in the center.
Okay, center right here. I'm left-handed, so this is gonna be kind of awkward, but it's okay. It's okay. There's the O right there. It's the O. Okay, I gotta get my Sharpie here, because I am. There we go. I am here. So okay, you put the O right in the center. Go right here. Okay.
Okay. I'm going to go right in the top left corner.
Right here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's my O. This is gonna, it's gonna look funny, but it's okay. Okay. I am going to go here. There we go. X. That's my bad looking X.
I will go in between those X's.
Oh, okay. Alright. Where am I gonna go? I'm gonna go right here. Okay. Getting there.
I'm gonna go in the middle. Wait, left. Hopefully it's your left too.
Right here. Oh.
I feel like you gave me that one.
No, I didn't. I just can't see. That's the problem. I didn't plan this out right.
Such a gentleman.
There you go. You won. Yeah. I gave it to you. That's me being courteous. You are the winner.
I finally won something. Yay!
Finally won. Good job. Now let's throw this out. Okay, there we go. Awesome. So, Vivian, if you were a deck of cards, which suit of card would you be and why?
The Joker. For sure. I would be the jest. Everyone in my family and even my clients, they know I'm pretty much the comical relief. And I've always said that if we ever had to go back in time, like the caveman days, or we had to start bartering again, because, for whatever our world has changed to a new world order or whatever, I would be a jest. I'd be like, can you please feed my family? I will literally dance and entertain you. Like, that would be my job. That would be my job. My family would just pick me out as the jest.
Jester Vivian. I could see you with the jester hat and like.
I would totally, with the bells. Oh my god, I would totally, yes. You will be hearing me coming and running away.
Very cool. My next question is, what is your guilty pleasure junk food?
Cheese balls. I'm so embarrassed to say this, but everyone knows cheese balls. You know the big tub, and this is so embarrassing. If anyone has ever gone to Walmart and seen the big tub with the purple lid, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I would go through that tub in a week or less.
Okay. Go figure. That's with me and cheesecake. Like, if you give me a cheesecake, morbid as it is, I will probably eat most of that cheesecake. That's like my guilty pleasure.
At least that's like, you can only eat so much cheesecake. With cheese balls, you can go endlessly.
That's how they get you. You know that. They give you the giant tub, and it's like, here it is, and then like, oh, you continue it. Oh, here's another tub. Here's another one. It's
so funny when I told you I work in corporate life, and the shelf, I would have it just like there amongst my library of books, and I would just keep eating from the tub, and they could always tell when I was stressed, because I'm a stress eater. So junk food keeps me going when I have to sustain myself. So they'll come up and be like, Vivian, and then they'll see that I'm eating cheese ball, and they're like, really slow. Everyone gets scared. They're like, "Oh no, she's overwhelmed. Everyone back away. Don't ask her anything."
So it's a good detection, good alarm. If it's going down more and more, then you know something's going on.
Exactly. So if you guys see me eating cheese balls in my stories on Instagram, be very aware.
Hey, good to know. Stress aside, my next question is: do you do well with roller coasters?
If we're actually talking about literal roller coasters, no, I have a fear of heights. But if you're talking about roller coasters as applicable to life, I work very well on I like working on high pressured deadlines and sensitive deadlines. So I love details, and I love challenges. So that I can do, and I also love. And it's also very important to be emotionally intelligent. So with emotional roller coasters, I'm kind of like this. I'm usually just happy all the time, to be honest with you. So And that's so important when you're like with any career you have in life.
Oh, absolutely. You got to have a level of enjoyment and fulfillment. You have to go for the roller coaster, pun intended, of emotions. You have to go for your highs and your lows. But generally speaking, if you're not in a happy state of mind where you're just like constantly going through a lot, then maybe that's some sign that you may need to work on something to try to live a more fulfilling and more enjoyable life. I don't know. That's just my take on it. I know nothing, but, that's what goes for it. But okay. You're good dealing with life's roller coaster.
Yes, and when you're on that high all the time, the lows seem so minimal. So when you do get into a low, you're just like, it's just a temporary thing and you're just passing through.
Absolutely. So, what and where do you want to see for yourself and the agency succeed with in the future?
So in terms of the agency, I do want to scale the business to a point where we can reach other regions such as London and Barcelona in terms of our production side. And, on the other parts of the business, we do work remotely, but in terms of a crew actually being locally there, I would like to develop up there in those particular regions. And then truthfully, I would like to take my existing team that's been with me from the beginning and cross over to Hollywood because I always wanted to do short films and movies because that's where my music background. I would like to do soundtracks. I would like to build bigger scenes on bigger locations and really work on a much bigger scale than we are now in terms of our productions.
Okay, so just not rapid, but major expansion looking ahead for you.
Yes, absolutely. Script writing, all that jazz. I love all that about Hollywood. I have notebooks of all the movies and Broadway musical plays that I've written and hoping to cross over at some point in my life. I always foresee that as a chapter in my life of happening at some point later down the road.
That not later. It's going to happen as soon as possible. Right after this interview, that's when you're going to start doing it. Right away. And I'm being serious. Like if you have those ideas there. I know you're trying to go into Hollywood, and that's a big endeavor, but if you want to just start and just get your feet wet, just start creating short projects and short films when you have the time. Obviously, you're very busy. You have a full-scale business. But I'm just saying, when you have your downtime, you want to work on it, just start small, work your way up. Just like you started small with photography, you work your way up to the amazing business that you have, you just do the same thing.
That's exactly how you have to do it.
Gotta start small, work your way up. Next question is, what is a great piece of advice for anyone who wants to pursue creative endeavors?
I would say, as an artist, it is very important that you think about the long terms of how do you sustain yourself and make it lucrative. The problem with artists is a lot of us are so busy honing on our craft and we're very emotionally tied to our skill set that we don't really look at the entrepreneurial side and the marketing aspect of it. And it's okay. You do not have to be good at business to be a successful artist, but you do have to have the wisdom to understand that you need to have certain other people that are experts in those areas take you to where you need to go. So if you don't invest in yourself, because you won't be able to sustain yourself long term. And then what is the point of that if you can't share your amazing talents and skills with the world? So it's really important also to take in experience. Experience is so important. I would say that experience is actually more important than education, especially as an artist. Anyone working in the creative field, you cannot be taught to be creative. You are either born with it already or not. And this is sometimes a very harsh internal conversation you have to have with yourself. Because I remember when I went to school and I would kind of not measure myself up against everyone, but I had to have like a proposition, like where do I stand with my talents? Because you see so many talented people, and you're like, oh my God, that person's so much better than me at certain things. But you have to realize, like, how are you going to define yourself? How are you going to keep improving? You can't look at people and let that suppress you. You have to actually make it push you and elevate you even further to be even better, be more creative. And then also, like I said, I learned a lot of things outside of school. So most of my skill sets were all self-taught outside of school. And it really, really brought me to where I am now by doing free things in the beginning with people and investing in myself. You know, when I didn't have a stylist, I was the one styling, and I'm still styling sometimes, but I was the one doing every single part of the production. I used to do all the post productions because I was a graphic designer. So I edited all my photos, but now we have a team of 6 people. So I just hand it off to whomever.
Right.
And so it's so important that you also let go as an artist. If you want to be a true business owner as a creative, there will be certain things that you need to let go eventually, because in the beginning, when you're bootstrapping, of course, you can do everything and anything under the sun, but you do know that your time is better working on your craft. So you need to have other pieces, because it really does take a team to make the dream work. And I'm a huge advocate of that. And I'm sure you noticed that even with the questions you asked me, I've always been about connecting with the raw talent and working together and not against each other in the creative community, because it is already an undervalued industry. And so it can be very discouraging for some artists when they feel like they are unable to sustain themselves. But let me tell you now, if you're an artist and you're working a 9-to-5 job, you think of that as a vehicle for yourself, because I worked in corporate life before I started my own business, and I did my own business on the side while I was working. But every job I've ever had, even working at a restaurant, it taught me social skills and multitasking. Like every single job that you ever have in your life is only a step forward to where you're going to end up and where you're going to continue to go.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with a lot of the points you brought up here. And, being an artist, being a creative, it takes a lot of time, a lot of patience, a lot of effort. And I always say it's a crapshoot. You could be doing this for a very long time and then may not necessarily get the success that you necessarily want, or maybe it might put you in a different direction. But the thing I can relate with the most is, every job you have, every gig you make, every connection you have, partnership, whatever the case may be, is a stepping stone that leads to potentially what you may be doing in the future. And it always gives you the correct skill set and the skills that you need to excel and to achieve what you're trying to do long term. So everything means something, everything causes a ripple effect, both good and bad.
Absolutely. And back to earlier, Stephen, when you talked about your background as a programmer,
Yes.
and I also talked about my tech background. People don't realize that, but when I'm shooting for my clients, I am very intentional. So I'm already thinking about the landing page. I'm thinking about all the collateral that these images are going to be used for. So I'm already thinking how they should look, how wide they should be, which orientation I should be shooting them in, what type of lighting, leaving negative space for the text. So I am very I'm very intentional with everything I do, and people probably don't realize that. They're like, I'm just taking a picture, but why did I leave space here, or why did I crop it this way, or why did I shoot it from this angle? So that's also something, it's like everything, all the experiences that you look at everything, you approach it so differently. Because even, for example, besides the technical side of it now, I'm looking at, like, when I look at these, when I'm creating the storyboards, I'm also studying all the people's faces, all the talent that I work with. So within 15 seconds, this is a guarantee, within 15 seconds at this point in my life and in career, I'm able to identify a person's angle. So, and within 15 seconds,
Wow.
I know exactly if I need to shoot a bird's eye at an eye view or below you, to the left, to the right, 45 degrees, up, down. Like it's crazy. Like, and I've had so many clients who are just like so impressed. So with headshots, I'm like, I only need 15 minutes with someone and I can do the headshots, and I can provide you 100 frames to choose from, like that, because I've studied people's faces, especially being, a minority myself, and I love different cultures and different features. So every culture has like certain prominent features that I know that I want to highlight, or I want to, maybe conceal for them. So even like, well, my face is like this, but for example, like your face is round. So when I was sublighting, I would cut in some shadows here if you wanted to look longer, or if you had a long face and you wanted to make it rounder, I would put the lighting a certain way to make it flatten it out a little bit, make it wider. So there's just like little technical tricks that we do. And so it's just beyond creating. It's just learning about the creative aspect. And you just gotta have that thirst. Like I have this insatiable thirst for learning all the time, whether it's just learning to play the cello. I just love learning so much, because I feel like it ties all into creating. Like everything we are inspired by everything we see, we smell, we hear, and that is where it translates. Even like as a user experience designer, you would think like, oh, this boring tech person who has no personality is working behind the screen to create this amazing website. But no, I play certain music when I'm like dissecting a website, I'm like, okay, this is the music I'm hearing for the brand that I would hear in the commercials. And then I'm like looking through and I'm like, okay, this is what type of experience do I want? How could it be dynamic? What kind of CTAs do we want to do? How do we encourage people to click here and to call in and to buy, So it's, being a creative, it will take you only so far. You have to have tenacity and you have to have that drive to learn how to encourage sales. And I hate to bring up the business part of it, but this is just something I really want a lot of creatives to think about, is that you get at what you do, but the more you know, the more you can do.
Amazing, wise words there, and definitely applicable for anybody that's going into creative endeavors and going to the creative fields. You got to do both sides. You got to know a little bit of the business, but you got to know the creative, and obviously you got to balance the two in between. And it's funny that throughout this interview you've mentioned about your love of music and how you use music as a tool to help you when you're creating or when you're dealing with business issues, business ventures, whatever the case may be, right? Mm-hmm. So it leads to my last question. I want you to remember it because it's going to play a role for this episode. So this season on These Are Questions, season 3, I'm asking every single guest to come up with some of their favorite songs that define their personality, because I'm creating a playlist for this season. So,
oh, wow, cool.
So Vivian, can you tell me, and you can give me up to 5 is what the limit is, but can you tell me some of your favorite songs that define your personality?
Definitely Naughty by Nature, Hip Hop Hooray. That is my jam. I go crazy. Also, this is probably a weird thing to divulge to you, but I always said that when I pass away at my funeral, I want them to play that song "Kamting Du Atre" in that movie Amelie by Jan Tiersen. Mm-hmm. Because if you listen to just the melodies and of the composition, it kind of just tells my story of when I was born into music and creativity and how I went through some, dark places and then went back up and it brought myself and resurrected so many times. And so that is a song that I definitely think expresses my personality. Mm-hmm. And then I'm a rocker at heart. I was raised on rock and roll, so I guess the next one would be Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses.
Classic, all-time classic.
Yep, all classics. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think those three would probably be my choices.
Good choices, good selection there. Okay, so what we're going to do at the end of the season, we're going to have a whole playlist of everyone's favorite songs that define their personalities, and it's going to be one wacky, bizarre, and weird music.
I love it. That's so fun.
Yeah, this is it. This is the end. We're at the end of our interview, Vivian.
We made it.
We made it.
Woohoo, guys.
Here. Yes. Applause and everything in between. So, Vivian, the floor, or excuse me, I guess the internet is yours right now, because anything that you want to promote, anything that you want to say, anything that you want to do before we end off in this episode, it is your time to shine. The internet is yours.
Thank you guys so much. Well, I'm not gonna promote my business because that's not really my style. But what I will say is, I just want everyone out there, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever your story is, I just want you to know that there is someone else who shares the same exact story as you. And I think it is our responsibility in life to spread happiness and compassion. So I think it's so important that we all remember, oh my God, I'm getting emotional. I wasn't expecting to get emotional. I think it's because of COVID.
Welcome to These Are Questions, where things get emotional. Sometimes.
Yeah, it's so crazy. I didn't think that was going to happen to me. I'm usually not an emotional person, but I think with COVID, it really taught me that. I've been so moved by so many people who have been moved by just working with us that it's really made me feel so grateful to do what I do. And I think it's so important that you live each day just grateful for the talents that God has given you, but also for the opportunity to share with other people. And also tell their story. So I'm sorry, I'm such an ugly crier.
Okay, don't cry. We're not. This is not the show for crying. It's okay.
But I really love what I do, and I really think everyone for their support, because I wouldn't be able to do any of this without the support of my followers, my fans, and our clients. And so I'm forever grateful for you guys for contributing to my craft and always inspiring me.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing everything that you've shared here for this episode. These are questions. This emotional roller coaster of
See,
an
like
episode.
rather emotional roller coaster.
It's all good. No worries, no worries. So to wrap up here, episodes are here on YouTube and Spotify for These Are Questions. For those that are watching and listening, we thank you. And the last thing I want to say before anything is that everything's in the description down below for medias for both myself and for Vivian. So feel free to check those out if you're interested. If not, that's okay. That's cool. That's fine. If you are, then great. And with that, you've been watching / listening / viewing. I don't know what you're doing anymore. It's 2022. Who knows? I don't know. You've been watching These Are Questions. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Or good morning, or good afternoon. You could be watching this at like 4:57 p.m. in like, I don't know, Dubai or something. Maybe.
It's true. Buenos dias, buenos tardes, buenas noches, buenas... Bonsoir.
Bonsoir, au revoir, arrivederci. Welcome to Multicultural These Are Questions. We're here for the culture.
And then sanity.
Insanity. Here on this roller coaster.